The forest is freezing. I hold fire, she holds ice. We love each other, but only one can survive. This book gives me hope and shows how to face hard choices. It's great for sharing. Watch my summary now and read the book.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are definitely undertaking a monumental task today.
Right.
We are going to be dissecting a fate so cold.
It's a big one.
It is. And this isn't just a fantasy novel that, you read for fun. It is. It's a meticulously constructed machine of world building and plotting.
Mm-hmm.
It fundamentally sets up this entire magical institution only to systematically dismantle it by the final page.
It truly is. It's like an engineering marvel in terms of its narrative complexity. And that's really our mission for you, the listener. We're aiming for an exhaustive analysis here.
Right.
We need to go beyond simply summarizing the plot. We are, dissecting the intricate machinery of this story, the suffocating institutional setting of the Magician's Order, the tragic personal lives of Domenic and Ellery Caldwell, and that incredibly bleak yet ultimately necessary subversive conclusion.
We have to uncover not just the what, but the foundational why.
Exactly. Why does it all have to come crashing down?
Exactly. We have a dense stack of sources here. I mean, everything from whispered council minutes to the precise arcane rules governing the living ones. Our job today is to make sense of the chaos, the prophecy, the sheer heartbreak, and really figure out what makes this story tick so ruthlessly.
And to set the framework, I think we have to acknowledge the powerful dualities the authors establish right from page 1. Everything in this world is structured as an opposition.
Summer versus winter.
Summer versus winter, destiny versus personal choice, the public performance of heroism versus the crushing reality of it. What's critical, though, and I think this is the key, is that this entire structure is centralized around the Magician's Order.
Right. This single political entity.
A single, powerful, and as we very quickly learn, a highly corruptible political entity. That setup immediately forces us, and you as the listener, to question the entire premise of good and evil in this world.
It makes us suspicious of the light side right out of the gate, which is, such a characteristic of modern fantasy.
It really is. The light is not always safe.
Let's start with that foundation then. Let's talk about genre classification. When we look at the structure of Alderland and the Order, what subgenre are we really in here? Because it's clearly not just a standard high fantasy epic.
No, it's not. It's a sophisticated fusion, I think. It presents with all the high stakes and aesthetics of high fantasy. The epic scale, the cataclysmic world-ending threat of winter, the ancient prophecy, all those classic elements are definitely present.
Sure, the fate of the world is on the line.
Absolutely. But what gives it its unique, almost suffocating flavor is the heavy infusion of institutional fantasy. The global threat isn't being faced by, a fellowship wandering through the wilderness.
Right, it's not a bunch of heroes meeting in a tavern.
Not at all. It's being faced by a highly organized, bureaucratic state entity, the Magician's Order Academy and its governing council.
And that institutional structure doesn't just exist in the background. It is the antagonist in so many ways.
Yeah.
It transforms the fight against the apocalypse into a matter of state policy, of political machinations, and PR management.
PR management is a huge part of it. It professionalizes magic to an incredible, almost ridiculous degree.
And that professionalization is precisely what limits the protagonists, and I think elevates the tension so much. We see this manifested physically through the existence of the living wands.
Yeah.
Magic isn't some vague, flowing force in this world. It is formalized, it's channeled, and most importantly, it is quantified. The source material is so specific about this.
It is. It states that Alderland has exactly 536 living wands.
Exactly. And that hard number, 536, it's crucial. It's not just a random detail. It grounds the entire system in scarcity and makes magical capability a highly valuable, finite resource that is fiercely, fiercely sought after.
So why that number? I mean, why so specific?
Well, the sources suggest it dates back to the very founding of Alderland itself. It represents the initial magical lineage. It means that when a student enters the order, they aren't just joining a school. They're entering a cutthroat, anxious competition for a tool, an everlasting instrument, as they call it, that literally dictates their entire life trajectory.
Socially, professionally, magically, everything.
Everything. The stakes are just immense from the moment you walk in the door.
And that's why we can call it the bureaucracy of doom. The entire order structure, the classes, the rigorous qualification exams, the vigils, it's all designed to manage this scarcity.
Let's talk about the vigils for a second, because they're fascinating.
They're terrifying. These ceremonies where students gather just hoping a deceased wielder's wand might choose them, they become these scenes of intense social pressure. The sources detail how students devoted their entire existence to this singular honor.
And they get ugly.
Oh, they get very ugly. Students are smuggling wine into these solemn ceremonies or even attacking rivals. We hear about previous incidents where students were physically targeted just to reduce the competition for one rare opening.
It's a system that incentivizes the absolute worst behavior in the name of heroism.
And because the order is fundamentally intertwined with the government, it's a public institution collaborating closely with Parliament, their inner workings are inherently political and public-facing. This is where someone like Isolde Song comes in.
The director of public relations.
Exactly. She is constantly on damage control. Because the apocalypse isn't just a magical event, it's an economic siege.
Right. And the sources paint such a vivid picture of this psychological and economic collapse. The approach at winter isn't just, ice and monsters. It's mundane civil panic.
It's the little details that sell it. We see salt littering the sidewalks because the city can't keep up. We see boarded up windows, empty supermarket shelves, the price of basic necessities soaring.
And it all references the devastating legacy of the 30 Years Chill.
A catastrophe that killed over a third of the population a generation prior. That is the collective trauma hanging over everyone. So Isolde's job is to make sure the public doesn't panic and repeat that historical collapse.
And this professionalization means the chosen one role itself becomes a PR spectacle. Ellery, who is already the order darling, is being groomed for this very specific public role, doing PR appearances and managing public expectations long before she's actually chosen.
And this is where the institutional setting layers that very real, almost mundane teen drama onto the world-ending threat. The political maneuvering within the Citadel becomes so important.
You have Domenic clinging to the title dead bottom of his class for 5 years straight.
Right, as a defense mechanism.
Oh.
Then you have Ellery being the order favorite and Julian Norwood's intense, palpable ambition. When Julian and Ellery's relationship breaks down, it's not just personal gossip.
No, it reflects shifting political alliances within the elite student structure. Personal betrayal becomes a national security risk because the order is the centralized and only defense they have.
It's the only game in town.
I just love that clash of the sacred and the profane in the world building. You have the Citadel, this fortress of wrought iron and towers, 42 flights of stairs, housing the literal heart of the magician's order and the vault of the prophecies.
And yet Domenic sneaks in and out like a common delinquent.
Right. And the students are still finding dark, musty hookup halls where the ancient tapestry knights are like flipping people off in the background. It's so real.
It's the total collision of rigid, ancient tradition with the messy, hormonal, and deeply flawed reality of the teenagers who are tasked with saving the world. It's what grounds the epic dope. If the order were a perfect, flawless entity, the story just wouldn't work.
The rot is what makes the betrayal so personal and the climax so necessary.
Exactly. The system has to break.
So if the order is the central institution, the Alban trees are the spiritual and really the physical heart of Alderland's magic. What makes these trees so essential to everything?
They are the source of all Aldrish life and power. It's that simple. They're revered. They're described as radiant beacons of perpetual summer, impervious to the change of seasons. The trees represent an absolute, constant magical ideal.
A symbol of stability in a world defined by the threat of winter.
A symbol and a source. Valmordian, the great wand of summer and the chosen one's instrument, was born directly from the Alban tree in the Citadel Grove. They are the origin point of Aldrish power, and the prophecies are physically revealed on Alban leaves that emerge piecemeal from their roots.
So the entire city of Gallowmere is essentially built around reverence for this specific nature-bound power. But the geography itself is key to the ideological conflict, isn't it? Gallowmere, the Citadel, the city of magic, it represents wealth, towers, political power.
And you have to immediately contrast that with the north. Nordmere, the barren, the fallen territory. The north represents the encroaching, feared wilderness, the place where winter has already won the economic and ecological battle.
The physical setting reflects the ideological split perfectly.
It does. Gallowmere is tradition, summer, and absolute institutional control, whereas the north is the terrifying, growing reality of the cataclysm. It's the uncontrolled, wild magic that the order fears most.
And this is tied so deeply to Ellery's personal trauma. Her deepest, most suppressed memories are rooted in the fall of Nordmere. It establishes the North not just as a geographical location, but as a place of profound national and personal failure that she has to constantly, desperately outrun.
And what's truly insidious is how this national pride in the wands and the alban trees is built entirely on institutional secrecy. Alderland boasts about its wands, but the council maintains the narrative by actively hiding major truths from the populace and even from their own agents.
Okay, let's detail those suppressions because they are absolutely crucial to understanding the institutional rot. They're not small lies.
No, they're foundational. The sources detail 3 critical deceptions. First, the council hides the existence of a second alban tree within the Galmir city limits.
A backup, maybe? Or a potential point of weakness they don't want anyone to know about.
Exactly. Second, they actively suppress the true history of the prophecies. They deliberately gloss over the fact that they knew for a millennium exactly how many cataclysms were coming and how many prophecy pieces remained. They present it as vague destiny, when in reality it's a specific, numbered countdown to doom.
It's a known quantity they're pretending is a mystery.
It's pure information control. And third, and this is perhaps the most heartbreaking one, they suppress the true, horrific fate of previous chosen ones.
Like Alice Rhodes.
Exactly. She is held up in the public consciousness as this glorious martyr. But Sharp, the president of the order, conveniently omits the fact that Valmordian's unbridled flames burned her alive, reducing her to ashes.
It is a horrific, agonizing death, not a clean sacrifice.
Hiding the true fate of heroes is the ultimate institutional mechanism to maintain the heroic ideal. They want perfect, clean martyrdom, not messy, agonizing death. They need the chosen one to believe in the glorious sacrifice, because that makes their duty more easily digestible.
Which brings us right to the core conflict, this elemental duality. The culture is structured entirely around a black and white morality that simplifies the world for the masses.
Absolutely. Summer, which is light, fire, Valmordian, the order, is culturally enforced as the inherent absolute good. Winter ice, monsters, the Baron, the winter ghasts, is the inherent existential evil. It's a classic fantasy alignment, but the entire story works to invert that expectation.
And the emotional payoff of that inversion relies so heavily on how the cataclysm is established. It's not just a physical threat, it's a deep psychological siege. Can you expand on that feeling of living under the shadow of the 30 Years' Chill?
The authors use these specific, chilling, almost mundane details to convey the panic. It's not just the sight of a ghast that's scary, it's the sense that society is fraying at the edges.
It's the empty shelves.
It's the empty shelves, the constant worry about resource scarcity. It's the feeling of inevitable societal decay. This grounds the epic threat in a very real, relatable fear of civil collapse and reminds you, the listener, that magic cannot fix human systems, especially not economic ones.
That makes the world's ultimate hook even more compelling. The living wand. This idea that a single magical tool defines your entire existence. Domenic, the self-proclaimed academic failure, initially aims for a quiet wand like Octorian.
And that single decision speaks volumes about the rigidity of the system and Domenic's desperation for an escape. Life trajectories are not chosen. They are dictated by the magical instrument one bonds with.
He is actively seeking a low-stakes destiny.
He is. It proves that even within the most elite magical institution in the world, there's this fierce desire to escape the pressure cooker of institutional expectation and the looming threat of the cataclysm. He just wants out.
The fact that Domenic wants out, and Ellery is so terrified of her own power, it places them squarely in the tradition of the reluctant hero. But as we've noted, it's severely subverted. Let's take a deep dive into that subversion. This is a good place for a tangent.
It is, because the classic reluctant hero, the passive farm boy like Luke Skywalker or a hobbit from the Shire, is defined by their starting position outside the power structure.
Right. They're discovered, they reluctantly agree to the quest, and then they transform over the course of the journey.
Domenic and Ellery are inverted because they are already inside the most elite magical institution in the country. They're not outsiders. They have a history of institutional failure, in Domenic's case, or success, in Ellery's, that they have to overcome.
Domenic is carrying 5 years of academic history with him. The public stain of the Sarythos disaster and the constant humiliating title of dead bottom. He desperately wants a quiet life, or as he says to Hannah, his best friend, he wants expulsion. He is actively trying to engineer his own irrelevance within the system.
But his massive, uncontrollable power keeps pulling him back in.
It's the one thing he can't escape.
And this is where the institutional nature becomes so vital. His appearance at Mercester Square, slaying the first Gaston Gallimere in centuries alongside Ellery, instantly turns him into an inescapable public figure.
Suddenly, he's one of the chosen two.
Exactly. And he's immediately thrust into PR photo shoots, wearing these specific, highly detailed, tailored russet suits that he clearly despises. The performance is forced onto him from moment one.
It's this contrast between the high fantasy stakes and the intensely modern pressure of celebrity. They're not just saving the world, they're doing it while being photographed for a glossy magazine cover. It's absurd.
Their reluctance isn't a starting point that they overcome in the first act. It's a persistent, draining, internal conflict that lasts all the way up to the climax. They don't just accept the mantle of hero, they have to constantly perform that mantle.
And the absurdity of it all culminates in them attending the movie premiere of Foretold, a biopic about a previous chosen one, Alice Rhodes.
Whose tragic fate, they know, mirrors their own impending death.
It's a genius piece of institutional critique. You are literally forced to watch a dramatic recreation of the tragedy you are currently living through. The pressure isn't just to save the world, but to be a successful, marketable brand of hero.
And unlike the farm boy archetype, where personal failure is just, personal, for Domenic and Ellery, personal failure or a public breakdown is seen by Sharp as a literal betrayal of the country.
Sharp's dismissal of Domenic is so telling. He says, Valmordian may have bonded with this boy, but just because his destiny is to save us doesn't mean he'll succeed.
It shows that the institution has absolutely no faith in the individual, only in the mechanism of destiny and their ability to control it.
It's this constant fight against the institutional machinery that relies on them while simultaneously degrading them. Domenic's joke about waiting for a magician to keel over so he can try for a quiet wand, it underscores his profound desire to minimize his existence within a system that demands ultimate sacrifice.
It's a very, very dark take on the reluctant hero. He's not reluctant because he's humble. He's reluctant because he knows the system is a meat grinder.
Okay, let's now transition to the core mechanism of power in this world, the living wands themselves. This is a very clearly defined hard magic system, and its strict rules are central to the social and political structure of Alderland.
Absolutely. The hard magic rules around bonding and the vigil are not merely flavor, they are the foundation of their entire society. The rule that a wand bonds to a soul wielder until death is rigid and absolute.
But the process of transfer is what's so fascinating and, frankly, traumatic.
It is. If a student witnesses the final breath of a wielder, they can attempt to bond immediately. If not, they must wait 1 full year for the vigil.
It's a magical scarcity economy that's built on death. The fact that the sources mention past attacks on classmates to reduce competition for prestigious wands, it just shows how deeply corrupting this system is. It institutionalizes the ambition and the desperation.
And the wands themselves are not neutral conduits of power. They seem to reflect, or maybe even dictate, the wielder's personality or their ultimate fate. I think we need to look at the 3 major wands because they embody the 3 central conflicts of the story.
Let's start with Valmordian, the Wand of Summer.
Valmordian is fire, it's fervor, it's destiny. It is made of the perfect Alban wood. It embodies the cost of heroism, a demanding, destructive power that is meant to incinerate winter.
And the fact that it burned its previous wielder, Alice Rhodes, alive.
Right. That underscores its insistence on maximum output and total sacrifice. It represents the oppressive, all-consuming demands of the status quo. It demands everything from its wielder.
Then we have Iscarius, Ellery's newly created winter wand. This is something totally new.
Totally new. Iscarius is frost, shadow, and resilience. Its power is literally forged in Trauma Ellery's experience in Nordmere and her suppressed winter abilities. When she first touches it, she feels a furious slice of cold against Valmordian's unceasing heat.
It's her opposite, but also her truth.
It perfectly reflects Ellery's suppressed nature, the element she was taught to fear her whole life, but which ultimately gives her true strength and the power of transformation.
And finally, the ultimate symbol of institutional rot, Sarythos.
Sarythos is the corporeal aspen wand, but it's revealed to be so much more than just wood and magic. It is possessed, it is insidious, and it is working actively against the wielder's true will. It represents the deep, systemic corruption within the order itself.
It's not just a tool, it's an agent.
It is a willful, self-serving entity that has been embedded within the council hierarchy for generations.
And the narrative carefully established Domenic's immense power long before he gets Valmordian. This contrast to his academic failure is so important. His inability to use simple training wands without literally destroying them is the first hint of his world-shaking capability.
The sources describe him just obliterating wands with a single uncontrolled spell. He's a magical nuke in the body of a slacker.
And Ellery's magic mirrors this intensity, doesn't it? Her early mastery, even of winter magic, suggests an innate, untamed affinity for raw power. Her struggle isn't a lack of magic.
No, it's the fear of losing control of it. It links her power directly back to her childhood trauma. When she uses her magic, her shadow literally coils and lashes out, alive and wild, and it frightens onlookers. This confirms that her power is primal and has never been tamed by the Order's summer narrative of pristine, perfect control.
This is where the story shifts entirely from a standard chosen one narrative to a story about institutional control and ultimately a betrayal that runs centuries deep. We always assume prophecy is destiny speaking, but here it's revealed to be a tool of propaganda.
It's the shattering moment of the book. The prophecies, which are revealed on Alban leaves from the root cavern, are not mere forecasts. They are literal instructions intended to guide the Chosen One to prevent or thwart the cataclysm. They are supposed to be the objective, unvarnished truth.
And the Sarythos revelation completely collapses the foundation of that truth. The entire central quest, the entire motivation, is predicated on that initial prophecy piece. Ancient peace must be restored. And it was a complete and utter fraud.
It was a lie. Manufactured and planted by Sarythos, who was possessing Hannah, its nominal wielder, in the vault. Sarythos, revealed to be the summer traitor, systematically destroyed the original true leaf and planted a fake one.
So this fake prophecy was designed specifically to lead Domenic, the intended chosen one of summer,
to his ultimate destructive sacrifice, ensuring the destruction of the opposing system. Domenic's entire heroic motivation was built on a deliberate, malevolent fabrication designed by an enemy hidden within the system.
So what was the true nature of the prophecy then? How does it pivot from this world-spanning fate to something so deeply personal?
When Ellery finally deciphers the pieces that were meant for her, they are not grand pronouncements about nations or armies. They are specific and relational. The lines are the unveiled truth of everything you are is power that will rise from your own ruin, and from the ruins only one endure. They pertain directly to her personal trauma, her truth, and her transformation.
So destiny was never one path.
It was always split into two paths. Domenic's was the path of sacrifice, Ellery's was the path of transformation, and crucially, it was always less about the content of the words and more about the choice they forced upon them.
Let's move to the external threat for a moment. The Wintercasts are often presented as mindless, encroaching monsters, but the lore establishes that they are evolving, becoming far more terrifying. Glenn's update from the field is just chilling.
Yeah, the Ghasts are not zombies. They are capable of coordinated strategic attacks. They have generals. We see this intelligence demonstrated when Kithion, one of the Dire Three, specifically targets the NDC generator.
Right, knowing that taking out the power makes the entire North compound vulnerable to magical incursion. That's not a mindless monster, that's a tactician.
They understand logistical weakness. And we also see Maltherius specifically attacking Refiri's Vigil to sow maximum chaos within the Citadel, proving they understand the emotional and institutional weaknesses of the Order. They are focused, named bosses, not just random threats.
And their defeat is presumed to be necessary to stop the cataclysm, creating a focused objective within the quest structure. But there's a twist there.
A huge one. What's truly unique is that Maltherius, after being defeated by Domenic, leaves behind these unique hearts or seeds. Ellery discovers that these seeds are the raw material for new winter wands.
The Ledrium, Sarythos' counterpart.
Exactly. This is a critical reveal. Defeating the Ghasts enables the proliferation of winter magic. The enemy becomes the very key to salvation, further inverting that moral duality we talked about.
And linking all of this lore together is the deep structure of the Alban network. This isn't just about a few important trees scattered across Alderland.
No, it's a vast magical and geological mesh. You should think of it like a massive underground fiber optic system for magic. It connects the roots of all Alban trees across the entire country.
And past chosen ones use this network.
They did, for fortification. Domenic's ultimate action of fortifying the network with Valmordian's power connects his magic to the entire land. And in that moment, he senses Ellery's power right there beside him, startlingly, exhilaratingly cold.
It proves their shared destiny was not merely political or magical.
It was geological. It was a connection that transcends the false prophecy and the Order's rules. They were always linked, deep in the earth.
Okay, this feels like a good place for another tangent. Let's dedicate some time to the inevitable failure of a rigid system like this. If the rules of the living wands are so absolute, they're eternal, they define your identity, they adhere to this strict vigil process, how does a system built on scarcity and rigidity handle unprecedented change?
It fails. It fails spectacularly. And that failure is the central tragedy of the Magician's Order. The system was designed to contain, channel, and perpetuate a specific political reality, summer dominance, and the predictable transfer of power via vigils.
It's all about predictability and control.
Completely. The moment variables appear that it cannot account for, Domenic's unprecedented volatile power, or the emergence of Ellery's new, viable winter alignment, the entire rigid structure begins to crack under the strain.
It's just too inflexible to survive a true change. We see this inflexibility in their reliance on the vigil rules, even when the world is ending. The idea that you have to wait a full year to rebond a crucial wand, it's still upheld. It creates unnecessary danger and competition at the worst possible time.
And their bias is fatal. The Order's belief in Summer's absolute moral superiority blinds them to the possibility that winter magic could actually be beneficial.
This is Keister's big reveal.
It is. When Kester reveals that the winter territory is actually improving the land, making crops grow without the need for constant magical intervention, the institutional lie is completely exposed. The rules exist not to protect the people, but to protect the power structure itself, the summer hierarchy.
So the unintended consequence of creating such a rigid, hard magic system is that when you're faced with a true existential threat that demands innovation, the system can only demand greater and greater sacrifice from its agents, like Domenic.
While actively suppressing the transformative solution, which is Ellery.
Precisely. The system was so rigid, so focused on its own survival and its own purity, that it could only be saved by its own destruction and overthrow. It demands a sacrifice not just of the chosen one, but of the entire philosophical structure of Alderland.
It had to burn to the ground to be reborn.
Now we have to move to the characters who are trapped within this failing system. Domenic and Ellery represent two sides of the hero coin. The one who is anointed by destiny and the one who meticulously constructed her own mantle.
Domenic's internal narrative is just a deep, deep study in self-loathing that's masked by this flimsy bravado. He is chosen by the most powerful wand in existence, yet his personal mantra is, "I'm bad luck, and I don't deserve this."
He sees himself as fundamentally unfit. He clings to the shame of the Sarythos disaster and his dead-bottom academic ranking as if they're a shield.
And the sources constantly highlight the painful contradiction of his existence. He's tall, freckled, and handsome, described as looking like the leading man on an Aldrich movie poster in those tailored russet suits he absolutely hates.
Yet underneath that perfect exterior, he's profoundly terrified. He's hiding tears from his best friend and famously throwing up on historic hardwood floors moments before a crucial public appearance. That single image just captures the absurd pressure perfectly.
Then you have Ellery, the hero built by public performance. She is the Order's darling, she is Miss Perfect, and has been ever since she was 13 years old. But that facade requires constant, exhausting maintenance.
She lies so seamlessly on the radio, spinning this narrative of humble roots and a grateful heart, all while suppressing her terrifying winter magic and her profound personal trauma.
The sight of the ghast with eyes gleaming glacial blue and the memory of her parents' cruelty in Nordmere, all of that is locked away behind the perfect smile.
Her ambition, her drive to seek the hero mantle, it's rooted in this deep need for institutional validation. She needs to prove she isn't the monster her family and society suggested she might be.
And their unwanted celebrity status following Mercester Square makes the performance inescapable. They become national icons, scrutinized constantly. Reporters flock to them. Other students are literally betting on their failure. They are forced to live out their tragedy in public.
The absurdity of it all is a major thematic point. They joke about the reporters asking for locks of their hair. Domenic is forced to pretend to be a charmer, while Ellery has to embody the stylish choice for the modern young career woman.
It's all branding.
And the moment they let their guard down, that shared laugh in the movie theater, it's incredibly brief and so precious because it's the only real moment they have.
Let's look at the Order's human face, starting with Alexander Sharp, the president, who really embodies the military-industrial complex of magic.
He's the ultimate example of ruthless pragmatism. He views destiny purely as duty and sacrifice. He reduces Domenic to a disposable tool that must perform his function.
His immediate reaction to Domenic is just contempt. He dismisses him as pathetic, and his view of Ellery is cynical. She's merely a pretty face to manage public opinion. He doesn't see them as people at all.
Sharp is the necessary villain because he operates entirely within the institutional lines. He's not an outside evil. His line, "Destiny be damned, I will be the one to have the last word," shows that he views himself as the true guardian of the order, ready to commit treason or sacrifice his own agents if he decides they're a threat to his established control.
He is the system personified.
And then there is Hannah, the betrayed friend. Her tragedy is immense because she is both Domenic's closest confidant and the unwitting vessel for the institutional rot for Sarythos.
She is forced to watch her bond with him erode as she secretly serves the summer trader. It's an impossible position.
Her tearful confession in the vault is one of the most devastating scenes in the entire book. She confesses she thought he was pathetic because she knew, from Sarythos' historical archives, that he was supposed to die.
She was trying desperately to save him by keeping the truth hidden. She believed he couldn't handle it. Her duty as the Order's historian forces her to remember the brutal failures of the past, and she projects that onto him.
And while the old guard is failing, we see the new guard rise up among the students, representing the shifting ideological sands. Kester, who didn't even pass the Order's exam and stayed in Nordmere, offers that crucial alternative narrative.
That winter territory is not dangerous, but beneficial for the land. It's a truth the Order has suppressed for centuries.
And then you have Julian Norwood, Ellery's ex and the former Order favorite. He quickly aligns with Kester. Julian's ambition, his desire for power, his knowledge that he was destined for a strong corporeal wand, means he immediately jumps ship when a new, viable power structure appears.
It demonstrates how quickly institutional loyalty collapses the moment an alternative economic and magical model emerges. He's a political animal.
The core emotional conflict, though, is centered on the tragic romance between Domenic and Ellery. This relationship is built on a specific, profound, magical duality that suggests they were never meant to be apart.
The magic of proximity is central to their connection. Domenic's intense, volatile heat meets Ellery's profound, suppressed cold. The physical rush when they touch, the electric chill of her magic shuddering through him when he just hooks his finger around hers. It highlights that they were magically predetermined to coexist.
They can literally sense each other across the city when they're holding their wands. This is a true, non-institutionalized connection that runs counter to all the Order's rules and the established prophecy.
They seek intimacy in the face of duty, creating those crucial stolen moments. The clandestine talk in the movie theater, the charged conversation over the radio, the shared vulnerability in Domenic's messy room during their final, desperate night together.
They're trying to make the world feel normal, even as it's collapsing right outside their window.
And these moments emphasize that their personal truth, their growing love, is the purest thing they have, and it runs directly counter to their prescribed destinies. When Ellery nicknames their wands Val and Izzy, it's a moment of genuine, irreverent connection that just chips away at the formal roles they are forced to play.
But this relationship is ultimately predicated on the unavoidable lie.
It is. Ellery calls their relationship a fling to protect herself, claiming she wants to take the feelings out of it. Meanwhile, Domenic cannot bring himself to tell her about the death sentence that's predicted for the Chosen One.
They're trapped in this dance of denial that's fueled by love and self-preservation. Domenic runs from the truth out of cowardice and love, believing if he wasn't sure, what good was it to burden Ellery with this same fear?
And Ellery retreats into her Miss Perfect persona, unable to sustain the vulnerability that comes with real emotion. Their love is real, but it is utterly unsustainable under the system's crushing pressure.
Let's expand on Sarythos for a moment. This institutional villain that transcends a mere magical object. This wand is fully sentient and self-serving. It's a character in its own right.
Sarythos is terrifying because it's not just an artifact. It's a willful, self-serving entity that has been embedded deep within the institutional framework for years, having been bonded to council members for generations. This gives it both power and legitimacy within the system it seeks to destroy.
And it can perform incredibly complex, politically charged actions. It possesses Hannah, it tampers with the physical prophecy leaves in the vault, and it chooses its own goals: the destruction of Summer's Chosen and the perpetuation of the Cataclysm narrative.
What's unique is Sarythos' cruelty. It exploits Hannah's profound grief for Domenic and her loyalty to the Order's history. It uses her duty as the historian, forcing her to watch past Chosen Ones burn, and it exploits that trauma to manipulate her into planting the fake prophecy.
When Domenic finally confronts Hannah in the vault, the description is gruesome. Sarythos literally uses Hannah's hands to fight back, and one of Hannah's eyes thrashed like a prisoner trapped.
Hannah is forced to watch, aware, as the wand she loves, the wand that has defined her entire life, is revealed as the ultimate traitor. It's a profound violation.
And when Domenic severs the bond, he has to burn every trace of Sarythos out of Hannah's body. The wand's power is shown to be so fused with her identity that the act of unbonding is traumatic and deeply painful.
It proves the depth of the corruption the institution permitted to thrive for centuries. It's a fantastic subversion. The magical item, meant to be the core of Aldrich identity, is the mole that nearly ensures their destruction.
So the plot. It begins with a localized skirmish that just quickly spirals into a national crisis, forcing the Chosen Two into action before they are even remotely ready.
The initial action at Mercester Square, where Domenic and Ellery use only training wands to slay the first Wintergast and Gallimere, is the flashpoint. It establishes their raw capability and forces the Council's hand.
The political backlash is swift and predictable. The Council immediately creates an application process for Valmordian to maintain the appearance of institutional control. Ellery is scrutinized, and Sarythos attempts to breach her mind, demonstrating the internal threat. And all the while, Sharp is constantly undermining Domenic, dismissing him in front of the Council.
The vigil for Valmordian becomes this chaotic political spectacle. Julian burns himself trying to bond, showcasing the danger. Ellery nearly freezes trying to resist Valmordian's fire. The sheer intensity forces the Council to acknowledge Ellery's unique power,
Which leads to the creation of Ascarius and the designation of the Chosen Two.
a political compromise more than a magical decision. They're trying to manage a crisis they don't understand.
The Northern Mission is a critical geographical and ideological shift. They travel to the fallen territory, the Baron, which brings Ellery back to the site of her trauma and exposes Domenic to the true scale of the threat for the first time.
It's there they realize the ghasts are evolving, that they
Yeah.
are capable of strategy. This forces them to innovate rather than relying on standard order tactics. This mission validates their internal suspicions about the Order's outdated, summer-centric strategies.
Which leads directly to the pivotal discovery, the lie. The entire premise of their quest is thrown into chaos by the Sarythos revelation.
The realization that the wand of the historian, the anchor of corporeal magic, is the summer traitor, having manufactured the prophecy, it's devastating. The quest immediately transforms. It's no longer about following an ancient script to restore peace.
It's about tearing down the established order.
Exactly. It's about finding the true instructions and surviving long enough to implement a new world order.
The narrative structure itself is designed to be this frantic, emotionally draining race against a literal calendar deadline, which just heightens the tension around the inevitable sacrifice.
The rush to the solstice creates immense pressure. They are told that if the final prophecy piece isn't found before dawn, they have to wait another year, potentially dooming Alderland. This forces Ellery and Domenic to take reckless risks, like investigating the student solstice party and tracking the gas seeds.
And the prophecy pieces themselves dictate the final confrontation. They set up the duel. Domenic's final piece is the last chosen one will make a choice.
And Ellery's is, and from the ruins, only one endure. These two lines seal the fatal choice. They were always destined to clash, with only one surviving the transition into the new world.
The pacing in the final days is just expertly managed to create emotional whiplash. We jump immediately from moments of intense, almost domestic intimacy, the hotel night joking about Val and Izzy, to the brutal political reality of the Citadel attack and the unavoidable dual destination.
That frantic rhythm amplifies the personal cost. It emphasizes how little time they have left to reconcile their love with their duty.
So the story builds to the climax against the backdrop of the largest magical threat they've seen yet. It's not just another ghast.
No, the Winter Scourge is pure, unbridled winter magic engulfing Gallimere. It lacks any central ghast. It's just a catastrophic, ravenous force of nature. This forces Ellery and Domenic into immediate world-saving action that is entirely outside the Order's playbook.
And Domenic's final choice is the ultimate subversion of the heroic duel. He doesn't kill Ellery.
No. He uses Valmordian's roots to bind her, freeing his heart to accept his destiny and forcing her to strike the fatal blow with Ascarius. He makes a protective sacrifice, ensuring she survives and fulfills her destiny to transform the land.
The result of the sacrifice is cataclysmic and transformational. Valmordian ignites and shatters, taking Domenic's body with it.
And Ellery's subsequent monumental use of Ascarius, fueled by the death of the Summer Champion and incorporating the Dire Three's seeds and leaves, transforms the entire country into stable winter territory.
The alban trees turn silver.
The alban trees turn silver, permanently shifting the magical balance of Alderland. The destruction of the hero enables the creation of a stable new world.
Let's reflect on that for a second. How the story handles prophecy and agency. If the guiding prophecy was a fake, how did it still drive heroic action?
The prophecy functions as this magnificent, cruel narrative cage. Sarythos plants the fake prophecy, knowing the chosen one will dedicate their life to fulfilling it. Domenic acts heroically, charging into battles, confronting the traitor, risking his life entirely because he believes in the mantle and the instruction, regardless of whether the content was true.
Which proves that choice is always more powerful and more important than the content of destiny.
It has to be. His self-sacrifice isn't preordained by the original script. It's a completely unscripted, highly personal act of agency driven by love and protection for Ellery. He rejects the traditional heroic duel for a selfless sacrifice.
And Ellery's journey confirms this. Her true prophecy pieces were deeply internal. She had to confront her own ruin and accept her true winter power.
The prophecy provided the framework. It forced them into the arena, but their choices determined the subversive, tragic conclusion. The lie was what forced them to seek the truth, and in finding the truth, they finally achieved true agency.
Thematically, the book interrogates the duality of power and control at every level, starting with the personal link between power and trauma.
For Ellery, her winter power is inextricably linked to her trauma in Nordmere. Her desperate need to control her power stems from the fear of becoming the monster her parents accused her of being.
And for Domenic, his destructive volatility leads to institutional rejection and this intense self-loathing. The system labels anything it cannot control as dangerous.
And this feeds directly into institutional corruption. The Order's singular focus on maintaining the summer narrative and public trust leads to institutional cruelty. They hide the truth about previous deaths and commit intense violations, like burning Julian for failing the bond, or interrogating Ellery by forcing Sarythos to breach her mind.
A terrifying violation of her private self.
Sharp is the epitome of institutional control. He genuinely believes that duty justifies any sacrifice, and that stability requires absolute, ruthless control. He proves that the institution values the perpetuation of its own power structure far, far above the well-being or even the survival of its individual agents.
And the ultimate toll is the price of performance, the emotional and physical toll of maintaining Miss Perfect and Mr. Alderland is just unbearable.
The source material is full of these small, poignant details illustrating this. Domenic turning green beneath his public makeup, Ellery using canned responses about her humble roots. The performance is so deeply ingrained that Ellery has to remind Domenic during their final desperate moments, "We promised we wouldn't perform, not for each other."
Society nearly destroys them by forcing them into these idealized roles, preventing them from being honest with anyone, including themselves, until the last possible moment.
And after his death, the council attempts to salvage Domenic's narrative by immediately engaging in subverting martyrdom. They label him a chosen one mourned, dying a martyr at best, a failure at worst.
This is the final, cruel institutional lie. His actual final act was not a glorious battle for the cameras, but a deeply personal, protective sacrifice, specifically designed to ensure Ellery survived.
He chose love and agency over the prophecy's demand for a duel, and the institution immediately co-opts and distorts that sacrifice for political expediency. They steal his final act from him.
Ellery's new realization redefines the nature of heroism. It's not about being flawless or adhering to the prophecy. It's about accepting one's suppressed truth, her winter nature, and making impossible choices.
And Domenic shifts the definition of a hero from the powerful, sacrificial champion of the institution to the selfless protector of an individual and a new future. However, Ellery remains trapped. Even after her victory, Sharp demands she show up and smile and manage public opinion.
The war against the monsters is won, but the need for political performance and control lingers.
It never ends.
This is the core thematic argument of the book, I think. The long-held belief in summer's absolute superiority versus the surprising truth of winter's necessity.
The Keister alternative narrative is the philosophical linchpin. Keister argues that winter territory is not dangerous, but actively beneficial crops. Crops are growing without magic because the soil has changed.
This suggests that summer magic, while protective and traditional, might actually be an artificial, stifling form of magical control, inhibiting natural growth and stability. Alderland's reliance on perpetual summer was a magical monoculture, and it was bound to fail.
The ultimate ironic twist is that the country is saved by the very force it feared and suppressed, winter magic. Only after the supposed champion of summer, Domenic, facilitates his own death and the destruction of the opposing system.
The moral alignment is fundamentally inverted. Summer, associated with institutional purity, is revealed to be corrupt, stifling, and ultimately reliant on lies like Sarythos and the fake prophecy.
And winter, associated with monsters in the cataclysm, is revealed to be the necessary catalyst for stable growth and a new, sustainable, magical ecology.
So the country achieves a new form of peace, a stable, permanent winter territory, but at a devastating personal cost.
The price is the sacrifice of 1,000 years of tradition, all of the summer wands, and the life of the person Ellery loved most. The peace is politically stable, but the price of that stability is profound personal tragedy.
Traditional fantasy so often uses elements fire and light and summer versus ice and dark and winter to signify a clear moral alignment. Let's do a final tangent on how a fate so cold consciously dismantles this fundamental trope.
It completely deconstructs it. By making the evil element winter necessary for a new lasting peace, the story forces the audience, and you, to question your own deeply ingrained, preconceived notions about power structures and elemental morality. This is really the hallmark of modern, morally complex fantasy.
The elements are recontextualized entirely. Summer becomes associated with rigidity, control, a destructive fervor that burned its own champions alive, like Alice Rhodes.
And winter becomes associated with sustainable growth, with truth and resilience. The crops growing in Nordmere, Iscaria's healing Ellery's burns from Valmordian. It's a healing force, not a destructive one.
The visual statement is just so powerful. The alban trees, the symbol of endless, perfect summer turning silver. This symbolizes a permanent winter landscape.
It signifies that balance had been achieved not by eliminating the darkness, but by allowing it to flourish as a necessary part of the magical ecosystem. It's something the summer-centric order fought against for 1,000 years, and their fight was wrong.
Okay, let's review the tragic trajectory of the protagonists. Their success is intrinsically linked to their destruction and their separation.
Domenic's arc is defined by embracing the fire he feared and using it for ultimate self-sacrifice. He goes from self-loathing academic to a true hero, achieving self-acceptance and love, only to pay the ultimate price for it. His arc is completed the moment he forces Ellery to survive, ensuring her future at the cost of his own.
And Ellery's arc is the inverse, from the sheltered favorite to winter's champion. She embraces the cold she feared, realizing her true power lay outside the system's definition of good. She gained the world total political and magical power, but she lost her personal anchor, Domenic.
She survived, but she is fundamentally scarred, a lonely ruler of a world she saved.
The author's acknowledgement is so blunt. In our defense, we warned you Domenic and Ellery were never destined for a happy ending. It underscores the story's commitment to its grim, subversive core. Personal happiness was structurally incompatible with world-saving political change.
One had to be sacrificed for the other.
So the new world they forged is one of massive institutional change. What does the New World Order actually look like in the end?
The old order is shattered. Isusel Sung, distraught over her role in hiding the truth and Hannah's suffering, resigns. Sarythos is disabled and dormant. Critically, new winter magicians are brought into the power structure, including Kester, who now sits on the council alongside a magically rebalanced Julian Norwood.
And Ellery is the highest authority.
The scarred champion, destined to manage the political reality she forged, alone.
But Domenic's memory is stained. The institution is actively mourning him as a failure, a martyr whose sacrifice merely allowed the true hero Ellery to win.
This is the final, cruel irony. He never receives recognition for his true act of love, the choice to bind Ellery and force his own death. The public and the institution require a clean, digestible narrative. The summer champion failed, the winter champion prevailed. The truth remains confined to Ellery and those few who knew Sarythos was the traitor.
Ellery, however, maintains an unspoken connection to the truth. She can trace the true, non-institutionalized path of her prophecy pieces in the epilogue.
She understands that destiny was not about the content of the words, but about her personal journey, overcoming her ruin and her trauma. This suggests a deeper internal knowledge that remains inaccessible to the political establishment she now leads. Her power is rooted in truth, while the order still operates on necessary public fictions.
Let's conclude with a final look at the new magical reality. The hundreds of new seeds for winter wands glowing in the vault, including Maltherius' seed, suggest Alderland is entering a golden age of winter magicians.
This vast potential for new wands means the scarcity and rigidity of the old summer-centric system is broken forever. The country is now stable, flourishing under winter's permanent reign, which is a massive geopolitical and ideological shift.
So, despite achieving total political and magical victory, becoming the sole enduring force in Alderland, the personal cost, the loss of Domenic, means that true peace remains impossible for her. The only thing that endured was her terrible, necessary power.
That is the core tragedy this novel leaves us with. The grand epic victory came at the expense of the simple human victory. Ellery achieved the mandate of the prophecy, but she lost her anchor.
We've certainly performed an exhaustive analysis on the intricate world rules, the political landscape, and the heartbreaking character arcs of these two protagonists.
This story forces us to reflect deeply on the themes of destiny, choice, and the high cost of redefining what it means to be a hero in a world ruled by institutional lies. Domenic's ultimate heroism was not in winning a fight, but in choosing the path of destruction for love, thereby creating a better world for Ellery to manage.
The world is saved, but the saviors are fundamentally broken.
They had to be.
Something for you to mull over as you go about your day. If the entire purpose of a prophecy is to force a choice, and the initial prophecy was a deliberate, malevolent fabrication, does that mean that every heroic act, even one leading to success, is fundamentally based on a leap of faith, rather than any true cosmic certainty? Where does your agency truly begin?